And
Yes, it's
also, of
13.
course,
Yeah.
the production is a huge fucking part of this album just because of, the list of producers, which I'll actually read to you because of how impressive it is. We had Kanye himself producing, Andrew Dawson, excuse me, Bink, DJ Frank E, S1, RZA, Plain Pat, No ID, Lex Luger, Mike Dean, Jeff Basker, Mike Karen, other contributors. And the most fascinating part about this to me is that he had Madlib and DJ Premier come in to make beats, and he didn't fucking use them.
Yeah, he didn't
Tell
use
me
them.
which other artist is going to have beats made by Madlib and DJ Premier and not put them on their album. You have to be out of your fucking mind.
Not only that, but apparently Kanye and Kendrick have a load of unreleased music with Madlib. Like, apparently they've been making music since GKMC, so who knows what's in that vault. But yes, going back to the producer list, it's absolutely incredible because, Kanye has been known to produce everything in his discography. He's had a say on everything. If he has to mix and engineer everything, he's a fanatic that way. And it's crazy because I feel as if this is one of the projects that he has had a lot of different great minds work on. Jay-Z has a lot of executive producing say on it. Apparently he had a big creative say on the album. Then you talk about what No ID did too, and then Mike Dean. This is like one of the biggest moments in Mike Dean's career and what basically shaped him. So it's crazy to see what he was able to do in his past albums and how he was able to match it up. I want to ask you this, Tilly. Compare MBDTF to his 4 studio albums that released before this, and what was the biggest shift, let's say, in the track list and the aesthetic that was being presented?
Man, probably the biggest shift is really just the grandness of the album. Like, there is so much stacked into those songs. Like, you look at a song like Power with 3 different samples, and that, like, in my opinion, that is a perfect hip hop beat. Like, that is probably the peak of Kanye's production on a song like Power. But as far as the past albums, yeah, it had better features. It had really long verses from these features. Like, everyone was just putting their all into it. Yeah.
And yeah, that's a really good point that you say how, he tried to make a really grand album because it's really epic in scale. Even if you look at the production itself, I mean, the amount of samples that he used for this, and not only that, but he stirred away from his usual, soul sample aesthetic, and he dived into more progressive rock samples, classic samples. He even sampled movies, like just little bits of movies. And he experimented, he threw a bunch of shit together, and it worked.
I think the only soul sample that was actually on the album was from Devil in a
New Dress. Yeah, it was a Smokey.
That wasn't even him.
No. I think it was a Smokey Robinson sample.
Smokey Robinson sample, and I think Mike Dean and another producer worked on that track.
Like he didn't produce that track.
No, he didn't.
No, he didn't produce that track.
He wasn't even the one that brought the soul sample in.
Absolutely. And what's a fun fact about that sample is I remember reading this. I think it was on Complex. The first time Rick Ross heard that beat, he started crying. Like, the guy literally started breaking down in tears, and he's like, "This is one of the best produced songs I have ever heard." And you hear it because the most fascinating part about Devil in a New Dress, I feel as if, is that pause between Kanye's verse and then Rick Ross's verse, because you don't know what's gonna happen. Especially like, imagine
it was a nice pause.
It was a super nice pause because it built you up for Rick Ross's verse, and then after that, when you get that legendary Ricky Rose verse, you're left absolutely stunned. So back to the production. Another fun fact is that the only non-sampled track on the whole album is All the Lights, correct?
And that's my favorite produced song on the album, is All the Lights, just because of all the different sounds, the trumpets, the saxophones, Elton John's piano on that song.
Yeah, nuts.
It was just, I still listen to it today, and I'm amazed by what I'm hearing sonically.
How do you even engineer that?
I don't know, man.
How do you get that
it's
through?
It's fucking mind-boggling.
How do you get that through? So, Tilly, I want to ask you this, man. What's your favorite produced track on the whole album? So, like, what's your favorite beat?
I just said it, but Power. I think Power is the best beat on that album.
Dude, I remember the first time hearing that song, and I was fucking mind blown. It is such a complex production, and I don't even know how they pulled that off.
The last beat that I want to kind of single out, of course, is Runaway, which has that amazing minimalistic piano riff from Kanye, and it seems so fucking stupid simple, but it was a heavenly, melodic piano riff, and it's so iconic, and it's something that everyone identifies Kanye with.
Yeah, and I think they identify Kanye with it just because it's never been done before like that. I mean, imagine sticking a track into the middle of your album just with one piano key, right? And you just let it rip for like 15 to 25 seconds, I believe it is. It's not like a minute long, but still it was just enough. And I feel as if it was also the perfect introduction, to Pusha T. A lot of people were aware of Pusha T before this, of course, with Clips. He had a very celebrated career.
But it revitalized Pusha T's career.
It revitalized it because that song just blew up. And that's the beautiful part about My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy is I feel as if it had a really positive impact on everyone that worked within it. So, going on to the rest of the production, another thing that I want to say is that it's super cinematic. I feel like I'm watching a movie every time I listen to this album, just because there's so many different sounds and there's so many different emotions that are being inflicted throughout the track list. But at the same time, it's coherent and there's still that one vision being put in through it. And a question that I want to ask you is when you're going through that album, do you feel as if there's any dip offs throughout the track list, or do you feel as if it's just a consistent ride all the way through?
Man, I used to think that Hell of a Life was probably the one dip in the album, but after listening to it back, it's like you get Runaway. You get this extremely sad piece of music. Like, I want to speak on the production for that real quick, but I just recently got noise canceling headphones. And if you listen to the intro of Runaway with noise canceling headphones and all you can hear is that one piano note, it is just like you're in a pitch black room. Like that's what it feels like. And you just hear this piano note in the distance. It is beautiful. But I think that Hell of a Life is a really great pickup after Runaway. Kanye he's done that before on Graduation. You get stronger and then you go into I Wonder and then he picks you right back up with Good Life. So I don't think that there's any dips on the album.
No, there's definitely. I think there's maybe a couple of songs that are weaker than others, right? Like I don't think that it's a full non-skip. I'm not gonna say that, but just the standout tracks for me alone just make this album a masterpiece.